If you're considering sewing a faux fly instead of a functional fly that's provided in the pattern instructions, it's very important to take note of your measurements and under what size your waist falls in relation to your hips. For instance, in this example, I'm sewing a straight size D because the recipient of these trousers has a waist of 74 centimeters and a hips of 100 centimeters, which both fall under size D. When referring to the finished garment measurements of the waist, it's essential that it is larger than your hip measurement, as then the trousers can pull on over your hips without a functional fly. If, for instance, you have a greater difference between your waist and your hip measurements, such as, for example, a 102 centimeter waist, which falls under size I, and a 133 centimeter hip, which falls under size J, it is recommended to sew the functional fly, as this will result in less bulk in your waistband area. If, however, you still wish to sew a faux fly, then refer to the finished waist measurement nearest your hip measurement. In this case, a straight size J will be sewn, as the wearer's hips are 133 centimeters and the finished waist measurement is 136 centimeters, which means when the finished elastic waistband is stretched, it will fit over the hips. The only fly piece that you'll need out of the three that's provided in the pattern is the fly facing. You won't need the fly guard or the button fly. As per the pattern instructions, you'll interface the fly facing and then overlock along the curved edge. The only thing that will change in the waistband is that it will be cut on the fold. You can either do this by using the notches that's on the waistband pieces. So I'm using the left front waistband here, and the notches that indicate the center front I'm placing on the fold and then cutting out the piece. You'll notice though that the front and back of the waistbands are the same, so technically you could just cut two of the back waistbands on the fold, and then you'll have one for the back and one for the front. Complete your instructions up until step 8, and then we're going to construct the faux fly. Take the fly facing and place it wrong side to wrong side with the right as worn leg of the trousers. Then baste within the seam allowance along the top and the side. Using a contrast color thread, we're going to sew on top of the overlocking of the fly facing. This is going to serve as a guide from the right side for us to do the top stitching. So using this line as a guide, we're going to do 2 lines of top stitching inside of the line, and these 2 rows of top stitching is going to be about 1/4 inch or 6 millimeters apart. Remove your basting stitches. Sew and finish the raw edges of the front crotch seam, and then we're going to press the seam allowances towards the right as worn, so towards the fly facing that we just did. Continue on with the instructions from step 29 until step 59. To construct the waistband, take the 2 waistband pieces and sew the short sides together. If you're using a fabric with a nap like my corduroy, then just make sure that the nap is going in the same direction. The pattern uses a 1 centimeter seam allowance. Once these seams are sewn, then press them open, and then we're going to press the whole waistband in half, the right sides facing out, and then give it a good press with your iron. So once again, if your fabric has a nap, just make sure that it's going in the same direction as your garment. So when I stroke down, it goes smooth, and the same with my garment, so I'm making sure that the smooth side is then considered the right side of my waistband, so that's going to go up against the right side of the trousers. So with right sides facing, I'm going to pin the seams in the waistband to the side seams of the trousers, and then pin all the way around the waistband. Leave a gap towards the back of the waistband because we're going to thread the elastic through the gap, so you can mark this gap by putting 2 pins at the start and the end. I usually make the elastic slightly tighter than what I actually want it to be, because once you've done the top stitching on the waistband, it actually stretches it slightly so it becomes a little bit bigger. Put a large safety pin on the end of the elastic and then thread it through the waistband. Making sure your elastic isn't twisted, take the 2 ends and zigzag them together. Now you can pin the opening closed and sew it closed as well, making sure not to catch the elastic in your stitching. And then you can finish the raw edges of the whole of the waistband. Just like in the pattern, I've done 2 rows of top stitching on the elastic, and then I continued on with step 77 until step 80 to complete the trousers.